Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial about Zbrush sculpting. And in this one, I want to try to sculpt foldings for this pair of pants. Okay, it's extracted from Zbrush, did some zero measure, and then also added a little bit thickness on the edge. Okay, and subdivided, of course. And then we can start to already sculpt the detail. The brush I'm using now is the standard brush. You can start drawing already. You can see you can draw out, folding lines like this. But this is one little thing about ZBrush though. Let me go to the geometry, maybe subdivide it one more time so we can see it. You can see when you're dragging out a line, you kind of like see those iterations of the brush alphas, right? And you can see some texture in there. Now that's not what you want sometimes. So to fix that problem, you can try to go to the stroke, and underneath the lazy mouse, you can change the lazy step to something smaller like 0.1. Okay, that's basically making the distance between those iterations of the brush closer. So now you can see the line feels that much more fluent. Okay, all right, now we can start sculpting the foldings. Okay. I have some reference here, as you can see, folding like this maybe on the bottom. Okay, so one thing you can actually use here is you can go to the snapping tool or whatever screen capture, and you can maybe capture that. Okay, and let me move it away. Get the snipping tool. So you can basically draw over it to take a look at what's going on. You can see, well, there's just a bunch of angle shapes, and sometimes they connect, or like a Y shape happening here. And sometimes they connect from bottom to tip. And then going on to there will be another branches going on the back, right? And sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's an angle, or a circle here, right? If you can draw over it, it's easier for you to see the pattern, right? So there's one thing here, and it has another branch over here, and that, and that, and goes back in, and we have a little turn. So yeah, if you can just go ahead and draw out the contours, it's easier for you to see what's going on. And that's actually a common practice for not just trying to understand the direction of those wrinkles or folding. It's really helpful to even just trying to use those kind of like technique to draw maybe on the contour of the face or the eyelid to see how exactly that eyelid goes, right? Because with a lot of distraction like the lighting, it's harder to see. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and mimic those things. What I'm trying to do here is not trying to copy everything I see on that, but rather kind of like getting something similar. So I'm getting the characteristic, but not necessarily the exact shape. So what I'm doing here is using standard brush while holding down Alt to dig in, and then draw on top to create the high ground. And I'm trying to create two branches of that Y shape I was talking about earlier, right? And then it can go, oops, with another little dig in here on the bottom, right? And then when it goes to over here, above it, there will be another one. So just dig it in here, smooth that out. Okay. And then this guy keeps on going to maybe here. Okay. Now, one thing you do realize is that you don't necessarily really need a whole lot of subdivision levels to do this. I'm only on level 3. I'm having like that much of a polygon, which is not a whole lot compared to a common like ZBrush sculpt. So you don't need a whole lot, and it's actually easier to manage when you don't have that much, because you're working with smaller geometries, right? So that you can easily smooth, you can easily like move things around. Okay, so you can see I'm basically drawing out the same pattern I drew out earlier on that snip shot, right? But again, I'm not trying to copy everything like 100%, so I'm artificially or manually just trying to see if I can just add another branch over here, this guy. Okay, so those Y shapes has this really interesting characteristics. So you have the high ground, of course, but the contour here is actually arcing around it. If I can Control D to subdivide it one more time. the contour is arcing in, and here you sometimes have just like a little concave on the side, right? So that's how the contour looks like. Okay, and you can then even just use the standard brush and to just dig in there, just give it a little bit more exaggeration on that contour, right? To really make it pop out. All right. Yeah, you can see you can quickly lay out like a folding like that on the very bottom. Okay, let me go back to a lower subject level maybe here, and just keep on going from there. Okay, so I'm saying like this piece is actually also going down, so I'm using move brush to do that. And then another big fold goes this way, and I can dig in on the bottom of that. Maybe smooth that out, and then maybe extend this branch to the back. Okay, so when you reach it to the separating part of this Y shape, you can enhance it by drawing around it and dig in on the bottom, and you can extend it from there, because that part often is where the cloth or the garment get folded a whole lot of there. Right, you can enhance that area. It should be like one of the high ground compared to other parts. So it's higher here. Okay. One very useful way to study those kind of things is we have garment, right? We have shirt and all sorts of cloths at home. Just pick one and just fold it in whatever way you want and see how it goes, right? And then just try to understand that shape. Try to see where is the highest point. How does it flow? How does it connect to each other, right? Oftentimes when you cannot make any shape, it's not just because you're not there yet when it comes to like skill, right? But also artistically you don't really understand it, right? That's oftentimes actually the real problem. Okay, so try to study it properly before really do it. It's kind of like really important, right? And the good thing is that you can study any shape all by yourself, like very easy. You don't need to know a lot of like tech knowledge to do that, right? You don't need to like do experiment or anything. Just observe, right? Try to see what's going on. Anyway, you can see I'm just trying to gradually build up those smaller like winkles like that. Okay, and sometimes you can use clay build up just to give you a little bit more like filled in shapes. Okay, and then here I think this part can be like a little high ground, so I'm using the clay build up to help me to do that. And here we have another winkle goes this way. Okay, and then we can also dig in on the low ground. Okay, depending on the characteristic of the fabric or how stiff it is, you may choose to make the folding sharper. So for now, my fold is like pretty smooth. It's like tube-like. For some harsher like garments, you can use the edge polish to polish around that folding to make it more like a two flat planes like this, right, with an edge in the middle. That's gonna be for like sharper, stiffer fabric, things like jean and And you can also use damp standard to dig in some of the low grounds, sculpt around it. Use edge polish to polish out like a straight line to mimic that effect. You can see that part looks like it's getting a sharp folding, right? All right, it's pretty organic, so yeah, don't be afraid of making something irregular. They're all like irregular. But one thing you can think about it when you're sculpting is that you can always try to say, okay, the reason of the folding happening here is because there's a lot of fabric going down from the top, and that's getting squeezed. And I don't have the shows here, so it looks like it's there for no reason, right? So this may looks a little bit uncomfortable for now, but after I have the shows, then it's gonna be okay to be looking like that, right? Just looks weird for now, but yeah, Yeah, that's basically all there is, I think, for sculpting folding. A bunch of Y shapes, you draw them out and you smooth them on the edges. You enhance maybe this high ground, right, like this. And you dig in the surroundings and you make connections so that they are not all isolated. Okay. Yeah, I think at some point though, maybe here and there you could add some irregularity. Like here, you can have like a smaller branch going in. You can maybe dig in over there, smooth it out. Yeah. Just quickly lay out something a little bit irregular. Like that. But again, it's basically just a bunch of shapes like this stuck together to give you the sense of, the fabric is folded over there. All right. Now, if you feel like this is hard, even you know what's going on, then that's because you're not practiced enough. There's no way around it though. So if you feel it's like, I think I understand it perfectly, I know what's going on, but I cannot really mimic it, then you should just be able to do it after a few more tries. And just be patient and don't get too frustrated. It is frustrating when when you're not able to make something, and that's kind of like the downside of doing like this kind of like art. It does have some requirement on like practice, and if you don't really practice on it, you will never be able to make it look good, right? So the first few iterations when you're doing this kind of like garment sculpting, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be like really not to the level you want it to be, but just don't give up, right? Try it multiple times. If you feel like it's frustrating, maybe have a little break, right? We're still learning, right? You don't try to make it it's not gonna be the next big thing, right? So if it fails, it's fun because you are still like starting, right? And also for folding, when you wanted to like create complicated foldings, there will be softwares like Marvelous Designer to do things like this. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more in the future. But for now, just by practicing folding can actually help you to get much better to control the brush and being able to, observe shape better. So it has many merits. And even you have simulated all the garments with maybe Marvelous Designer or something else, it's still worth adding extra ones by hand to just give it that much more edge when it comes to detail. Okay, so the scale of sculpting garment is of course not outdated just because there's some simulation coming out. You'll see like people sculpting extra wrinkles all the time after simulating them from a Marvelous Designer, right? So yeah, you can see you quickly lay out those things and keep on adding until you have enough. So this one can go over here, I guess. I was thinking how this part laid out. It's like maybe it's like a big fold. Goes this way. And maybe there's something here. I'm basically inventing stuff now. It could be better if I find some references, follow it. But I feel like I could just do it by imagining like how those things are getting like pushed together. Maybe higher resolution. Control D. Alright, basically you can see like a lot of folding out there. Yeah, it's not that bad, not that hard to do once you have clicked with what's going on. I think it does have some clicking moments when you're doing this kind of sculpting though. So maybe you just have to wait for that click when you finally say, okay, that's what's going on, right? That's why mine is not very good. I think some of the things I feel like I'm really clicked when I'm doing this is that to understand this folding, it's not just about how does it looks like from this angle, but also how does it looks like from this angle. So when I'm sculpting, even I'm not going to this angle, I'm thinking about that. Like this one has to be nice and smooth. You want it to be also to be able to determine like the branching here that I was talking about, like how it can be exaggerated or enhanced because that's the high ground kind of thing. Yeah, it's just a few of those clicking. When you finally understand that what you have to do to make it look good, then eventually you'll be able to make it look nice. Right? You can see after adding a few of the things I talked about, like even this arc, you can see how three-dimensional this feels like, right? Cool. All right. Yeah. So after that, it's just a matter of keep on extending from there and adding all the things all the way up to the top. So maybe in the next video, I'll maybe do like a fast forward video instead of like talking about random stuff that's, you know, repeated. You can see me just finishing the rest. Okay. All right. See you next time.